What is up, guys? It is Marcus from Meanwhile, and today we'll be taking a look at Kim Jee-woon's 2010 South Korean thriller, I Saw the Devil. I wanted to share what I thought of the themes of this film and its core messages, and why I think this film is a standout in the genre, alongside films such as Oldboy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and The Chaser. Now, if you haven't already watched my last video on the magic of Hook, what are you even doing here? Hit that title card above, or watch Seb's last video on the genius of Blade Runner. Now, sit back and prepare yourself as we enter the unforgiving world of I Saw the Devil, because this is not for the faint of heart. Spoiler alert, you have been warned. Centered around Kim Soo-hyun, played by Byung-Hun Lee, a Korean National Intelligence Service operative, and his journey of revenge on the man who killed his wife, mass murderer, the sadistic Jang Jang-chul, played by Choi Min-sik, who you probably recognize from Oldboy, through a series of cat and mouse captures and releases. You may be saying to yourself, this is your standard story for a revenge thriller. And yes, it is, but there's a difference with this film, and that is the violence depicted, and when you expect the film to go left, it instead goes right. Now, let me start off by saying that the world painted by Kim is bleak. The film begins with the brutal and remorseless murder of Kim Soo-hyun's pregnant wife, alone in the isolated Korean country on a dark, snowy night with a flat tire, which just so happens to be her birthday, just to add insult to injury. Unlike many crime thriller films, we meet our killer, Jang Jang-chul, right from the beginning and are shown the evil he commits firsthand, and this is a continuing theme throughout the film as we continue to see the depravity of his character and the unspeakable acts he commits. Before landing his killing blow on his first victim, she asks calmly not to kill her, and he simply asks why. Why, she says? Because she's pregnant. He simply responds with his final blow before dismembering her and leaving her body in a field by the roadside for the police to find. It's not even the police who find it, it's a bunch of kids. Now, like I said, this film paints a pretty bleak picture of the world. This brutal opening of the film sets the plot in motion, with Kim Soo-hyun going on a quest to find the man who did this to his wife. Being a NIS operative, it's relatively easy for him to find Jung-chul after beating confessions out of all the suspects from the case, until he narrows it down to Jung-chul, who is already about to commit his next murder on an unsuspecting girl. Initially, he set out to kill Jung-chul, but upon having him at his mercy, he instead decides to begin a game of cat and mouse, purposely letting him go out into the world to torment him when he least expects it, by planting a tracking bug in him. What is so great about this film? Its unrelenting pace, its unpredictability, and its no-holds-barred depiction of violence. But I think, most importantly, its message. But more on that later. Not to mention the fact the film turns genre tropes on its head, with an opening that screams the film is going to go down the route of a torture porn-esque slasher, to then showing us Soo-hyun hunting suspects down in an almost Jason Bourne-esque manner. It's the shift in perspectives that keeps us on our toes throughout the film, subverting our expectation. The pace of this film, once the game begins, is akin to two frontrunners in a race, trying to get a gold medal. Soo-hyun is ahead for the majority of this film, with his experience in the NIS being an important part of his ability to track down and also on numerous occasions subdue Jung-chul, with very calculated acts of violence, as we see in their first encounter to when he slashes Jung-chul's Achilles tendon in a very graphic scene. Jung-chul, as he begins his unhinged attacks on everyone and anyone in order to taunt Soo-hyun for getting involved in his affairs, ramping his violence up so Soo-hyun is on the back foot and trying to catch up and stop him before innocent people are hurt, and us as the audience are constantly holding our breaths. We truly see the devil in this film, as its title suggests, with the film even going as far to show a cup Jung-chul drinks from having the number 666 in the bottom of it. There is never any clear motive for his violence and his hatred of people in this film, nor, I think, is there a need for one. He kills people because he can, and this is what makes his character one of my favorite and most loathed serial killers on film, because of his remorselessness, his brutality, and his unwavering thirst for blood. There is a feral quality to his character. Take the taxi scene, for example. After waking up from his encounter with Soo-hyun, he finds himself in a taxi with two thugs, and it's very heavily implied that they were going to kill him, because they actually are two thugs who have stolen this taxi and killed the driver. Upon realizing this, he very quickly dispatches them, after letting out a very casual laugh and telling them it's their unlucky day. And it really was. He slashes them to hell. And it's also important to mention, it's not like Jung-chul has good company, because his so-called friends could also be straight out of hell, as they're shown not only to be brutal murderers as well, but cannibals too. I think the core message of this film is that following the path of vengeance is a slippery slope. And this film does faithfully convey that message, from the morality of our main character very quickly being corrupted, as he was a man of the law, but disregards it for his own emotional needs, his need for vengeance. On his quest for vengeance and his initial decision to not kill Jung-chul, he not only exposes numerous people to violence and trauma, he also gets the only remaining family he has left murdered by Jung-chul as well, in an extremely harrowing scene where I held my breath. After them pleading with him to stop what he's doing, and this is a consequence of his action. Now, I know some of you would argue that Soo-hyun himself, too, has become a savage, but I would argue that yes, in many ways he has, but I wouldn't be able to compare him to the depravity of Jung-chul or any of his cannibal friends, even after the ending in which Soo-hyun brings Jung-chul to the place his wife was murdered at the beginning of the film and essentially tortures him and ties him to a guillotine connected to the door. Now, the final nail in the coffin is Soo-hyun inviting Jung-chul's estranged family and son to visit him, directly causing Jung-chul's death. This is the only moment in the film where we actually see Jung-chul frightened. Now, the film ends with Soo-hyun crying, as his quest for vengeance is now over. Upon its release, and due to its graphic nature, they had to censor and remove some of the more violent scenes, or show alternative shots. But in the Korean ending of the film, this ends on our standard credits with background music, but in the international version, it ends with Soo-hyun's crying as the credits roll. Haunting. The question I always ask myself at the end of this film, does Soo-hyun realize what he did was pointless, or does he even realize that Jung-chul isn't really the devil and he is himself? Everybody loses in this film. Evil can't be defeated by evil, and vengeance leads nowhere. And that is why, to me, this film put so many others in its genre to shame. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you like this content and you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more content like this. And what do you think of I Saw the Devil? As always, all of the social media links for our Instagram and also our podcast are in the description below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this brought to you weekly by Seb and myself. I've been Marcus. Catch you later.